1981's Raiders of the Lost Ark is considered one of the greatest films ever made and has had a lasting impact on popular culture, spawning a host of imitators across several media and inspiring other filmmakers. Directed by Steven Spielberg and written by George Lucas, it was, in 1999, selected by the United States Library of Congress for preservation in the National Film Registry for its cultural impact on American film heritage. It was followed by two successful sequels, The Temple of Doom and The Last Crusade, with The Last Crusade ending with our hero, Indiana Jones, riding off into the sunset. It was the perfect ending to a perfect trilogy. And all was right in the world. However, because Hollywood can't help itself, a fourth film was released 9 years later. Again, directed by Spielberg with George Lucas back as one of the writers. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was a financial success, but is widely considered a weak film and unnecessary. Mostly, everyone hoped that that would be the end of the franchise. However, something terrible happened back in 2012. Walt Disney Company acquired Lucasfilm, giving them ownership of not only the Star Wars franchise, but also the Indiana Jones franchise as well. And in 2016, our fears were realized when Disney announced it would make a fifth Indiana Jones film. What followed was 7 years of production hell. Spielberg stepped down, and the original script was rewritten by a crew of 4, led by new director James Mangold. Now, Mangold has had some really successful films of late, like Ford vs. Ferrari and Logan. So, he was a good choice. But then, what followed were rumors of reshoots, poor test screenings, and massive over-budget spending. Now, Disney looked to quell the rumors of a dumpster fire by releasing the movie to the Cannes Film Festival 1 month earlier in the hopes of good reviews. But this backfired, as even the positive reviews are lukewarm at best. Taking all that with its massive $300 million production budget, things were really looking bad for Disney and the Dial of Destiny, which was finally released this past Friday after its initial announcement way back in 2016. So what exactly do we have here? Could Disney pull a rabbit out of the hat? Could all the early buzz be wrong? Could this actually be a good film? Well, let's talk about it a little bit. Now, the film opens with a flashback to 1944, where we find Indy and his best friend Basil Shaw attempting to prevent the Nazis from getting the Spear of Destiny. Now, the Spear of Destiny is the blade that pierced the body of Christ on the cross and has been purported to have supernatural powers. Now, Jones quickly realizes that this spear is actually a forgery, but he then discovers that there is actual real treasure here. It's one half of the Dial of Destiny, created by Greek mathematician Archimedes 200 years before Christ. Indy is able to defeat the Nazis and take this and hide it. We then flash forward to 1969, where we find an old and broken and feeble Indiana Jones. You know, just what everybody wants to see from their childhood hero. He's retired from his position as a teacher, but his goddaughter, Helena Shaw, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, shows up and enlists him to help her find the Dial of Destiny. The film then follows Indiana Jones and his estranged goddaughter, along with her friend, young pickpocket Teddy, trying to locate the other half of the device and put them together before Nazi Jürgen Voller, a NASA scientist and former Nazi, played by Mads Mikkelsen, can get this and travel back in time to alter the outcome of World War II to correct the mistakes that Hitler made that led to the fall of the Third Reich. Okay, so time for a little confession. Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. I went into this movie with some bias after Crystal Skull's fiasco and all the stuff I've heard about this movie over the past several years. I fully expected to hate it, but I did my best. I attempted to put my biases aside and open my mind. And after the first 40 minutes, I thought, okay, this might be pretty good. It begins with a nice long action scene that is fairly well done and feels like an Indiana Jones movie. And then even when we see the old broken down Indy, the action starts up again with a pretty decent chase scene through New York. And I thought, hey, maybe I was wrong. Maybe this is a good movie. And then we get to Morocco, where this movie really begins to fall apart, mostly because of the Helena character, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Listen, I love smart and capable female characters in action movies or sci-fi movies. Ellen Ripley from Alien, Leia Organa from Star Wars, they're some of my favorite all-time characters, male or female. But this is not what we get here, because condescending is not smart. Ignorance is not bravery. And what none of us wanted was an Indiana Jones movie where Indy is led around by an insufferable character who thinks she's smarter, knows more about history, is more capable than he is in every single way, and is just absolutely perfect. But that is exactly what we get, and it's as bad as it sounds. She is a character with no redeeming qualities, who says the most ridiculous and outlandish things in an attempt to sound smart and quippy. I mean, she goes from stealing an artifact, to selling it on the black market, to then calling Indiana Jones, the man who spent his entire life rescuing antiquities from evil men, a grave robber. She actually says in one scene that she is resourceful, daring, beautiful, and self-sufficient. And well, I mean, if you have to say that about yourself, are you? Say what you want about Crystal Skull. At least it tried to give us a good indie story. All this movie does is spend its entire runtime doing everything it can to undermine its main character by making him look like a miserable old fool while building up this other character, who is an insufferable narcissist. Plus, it's too long. Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark is 2 hours long, and it's perfect. This movie is 2.5 hours long. And the action scenes after the first initial 2 scenes are just terrible. And it has one of the worst endings I've ever seen in any film, that comes across as written by people who actively hate Indiana Jones. So what do I score this film? Well, I'm going to be kind and give it a 4 out of 10. If you're a fan of Indy, I honestly don't know how you watch this film and come away from it feeling anything other than disgust. That they would take this iconic character and treat him in this way is almost unbelievable. Now, earlier I said that Indiana Jones is a cultural icon. This movie takes a piss on him. And if the people behind this got their hands on other cultural icons, say like Graceland, oh, they would probably turn that into an adult bookstore. Mickey Mouse, he'd be an alcoholic prostitute. Wait, forget that. Forget I said that. I don't want to give him any ideas. Look, there was a good story to be told here, even with these characters. You could have had Indy as that broken old man. You could have had his goddaughter show up asking him for help because while she's really good, she's in over her head. You could have then had Indy refine his fire. You could have had Helena Shaw get more experience and become the person she thinks she is. But that's not what we got here. What we got, well, was shit. It looks like they were trying to set up a passing of the torch situation from Harrison Ford to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and I'm sorry, but it doesn't work at all. And judging by early box office returns, this movie's going to lose a lot of money. So what do I intend to do now? What can you do? Do what I do. Say to yourself, you know what? Indiana Jones was a fantastic trilogy, and it ended with him riding off into the sunset with his best friend, his colleague, and his father. And the other two movies, just ignore. Honestly, just like everybody else does, because I know plenty of people that watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, and The Last Crusade. But I don't know anybody who goes back and watches Crystal Skull. And when all is said and done, I don't know anybody who's going to go back and watch this film. Indiana Jones is a trilogy, and that's all I have to say about that. Except, of course, if you like what you heard, click the like button, subscribe, leave a comment or a question. I'll gladly answer it. And if you didn't like what you heard, I still thank you for giving me your valuable time. And I'll see you next week.